Hey guys, welcome back to the Inquiry Club. The Inquiry Club is a psychology podcast that makes research and clinical insights fun, relatable, and relevant for your everyday life. We break down the mind's biggest questions without the jargon by exploring studies through a lens of interviewing professors and research experts, and we hope to offer a home for curious minds in their 20s and 30s who want both substance and entertainment, because understanding yourself and everyone else should be as fun as it is informative. And today we have a really fun topic because I feel like this is just extremely applicable for anyone's life, let alone 20s and 30s, where I feel are really foundational for the systems that you're creating. But we're going to talk about habits and really specifically identity habits and what that even looks like. So I guess we could get started just by even talking about the power of good habits. I feel like this goes really hand in hand with like dopamine conversation from last week of that's a bad habit to wake up and play EDM music, and it's a bad habit to stress eat when you're overwhelmed or anything like that. And it's a lot of really similar factors at play with a cue to or a trigger to an action to a result. But Christina, this is such a crazy question, but I feel like, are there any habits that you can think of my EDM music that are just so irritating to you when you do them, but you know that it's almost muscle memory?
I think anytime I go on, honestly, probably always related to my phone. Anytime I go on my phone right when I wake up to check email, even though I'm not someone that needs to be checking my email right at the crack of dawn. But probably something like that, or I think always like when I sleep in, that always bothers me because I know there's certain time periods that I know if I don't get up at this time, I will be late because I can never get ready quicker than like a certain period of time. And so I feel like I get like kind of like I always would. I remember having a conversation with myself. I was like, no matter what, you always take 30 minutes to get ready. Even if it's not actually getting ready, but it's like something about walking around, like putting on the outfit. Like, and so if I don't give myself at least fully 30 minutes to like get up, do my little like dilly-dallying or whatever I do, I can't get out in time. Like, it's literally, honestly, my morning dilly-dally for real. Because I feel like I find moments where I'm just like, walking around my room and I don't really know exactly what I'm looking for, but I'm just
This is the best start to my morning. Just making sure that everything's
so I think I've never been a person that can get up right out when their like alarm gets off or turns off, goes off. It's my fervent but maybe that one. I don't know, do you have another one that comes to mind for you?
I can't think of necessarily, well, I mean, morning EDM music is like such a bad habit of mine. Not ideal.
Are you still on that?
What's it?
Are you still on that?
Oh no, I've been really, literally this morning I was thinking about it, like even researching like preparation for this podcast this morning. I was thinking about, wow, that's so nice that I'm so much more conscious towards it now. I have such less of an instinct to do it. But I literally ate chocolate at like 10 a.m. and I was like, my dopamine died for the day. Like, I was like, this is terrible.
Literally.
But I feel like one of my...
I got kettle chips and I feel like we talked about this. They are both our downfall. Girl, I cannot eat that. Can never buy them. No. And I lie to myself and say that I can.
No. Oh my gosh. And... no, I don't reinvent the wheel with any kind of self-discipline in between the weeks of not buying them. It's like, you just know that this is what you're signing up for. But
I'm like eating the whole bag,
I know. I feel one of my worst ones is stress eating or while I'm editing. I feel like I have my cue for that is the sense of boredom. And so I always kind of try to like fill it with something like that. To go. I feel like one of my good ones is 3 p.m. run because I feel like my cue is boredom, and then it's okay, I want something social. I want to leave my apartment. I want to go do something. And so running is always kind of the routine. It goes cue, routine, reward, and all chemicals that go into it of the dopamine to like recognize the trigger that like starts the behavior, into like the endorphins of like doing the routine, and then like the reward of like satisfaction of something like going well in the end. But I feel like it's interesting that like habits come in positive and negative forms, and like there is so much like behavioral psychology to like prove why they happen. And it's funny because I feel like when we were 16, 17, 18, people started talking about driving in the way of like, oh, that's so crazy. You can end up at your destination without really even having consciously driven. And when I was reading about this, it's funny because that goes into the neural pathways and synapses of familiar routines and patterns. And so that actually makes a ton of sense, because if something is habitual, then it's following like neural pathways that are like already created and already pretty established, and so it's not getting slowed down by any kind of friction. So it's things that should feel frictionless, or picking up your phone and getting on Instagram will feel frictionless because the neural pathways are so established and so formed. And so it's just interesting. I think that the thing that's always interesting to me about habits is that they aren't accidental, but they are automatic. And so you can actually take a lot of control over it, but it doesn't ever happen unintentionally, you know?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, like kind of adding to what you're saying about like the equally positive and negative effects of habits. One of the things that I really was interested in through like one of the research articles I was looking at was how habits are a really interesting link between who you are in the moment and your self-narrative that you carry with your whole life. And so if you view yourself as someone who likes to run, are you in this moment, are you athletic and a runner? That's like a way to evaluate yourself. But then also your habits of having run at 3 p.m. daily is a reflection of you viewing yourself as a runner and continuously seeking that. And so your consistency of action kind of sustains your consistency of yourself. And without your habits or like sustained rhythms, your personal identity kind of lives in like disconnected moments.
Actually,
I thought this was really, and I was reflecting that I honestly feel like I would argue that many people actually do see their momentary moments as their identity, ironically. So I don't know, I'm just thinking about like individuals who seek really high kind of emotional experiences or high dopamine social experiences but hate their day-to-day life. I thought that was kind of an interesting way, but like their momentary identity as a coping mechanism is like also, and they essentially mistake intensity for authenticity. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way for it could be parties, travel, hookups, or big emotions that people feel. For them, that those defining intense, memorable experiences are maybe like a certain way to feel alive in the absence of sustained meaning. So,
well, that's so interesting.
I don't know.
Of like,
that was something I was pondering.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because I feel like we both grew up in like biblical contexts of things where you talk a lot about identity, and so I feel that's something that at least in particular Christians start wrestling with at an early age, because people start talking about where are you finding your identity, and that is so true, because that's an element of like day-to-day substantiated habits, building evidence for who you believe yourself to be. But like if you don't have that kind of foundation towards an identity, you would be like so like easily influenced to think of like those like highs or like those peaks as like who you are, as opposed to like the little like compounding actions over time. I think the thing that's so interesting, and I remember it's like James Clear says it in Atomic Habits, but that every action that you take is a vote for your identity. And it's so interesting because I feel like I had like my huge revolution towards habits like age 21, like junior year of college, was like influential for me towards thinking of like, okay, I am a very conscious adult, I have ownership, I have autonomy, I now get to choose and decide what I put my identity in and like what I'm moved by, like what these emotions mean to me. And I remember it was that era when I was training for my first marathon, and it like did mean so much to me because it was a crux that changed like a lot of my life, because it was like, okay, if I want to be seen as someone who's a runner, I have to run, and almost like working backwards, because I feel like so many people like try to be like try to like let the substantiated evidence like build up over time until it's a breaking point of like, oh, well, I must be successful at work because I've had all these successes. But it's like
Yeah.
you kind of almost don't even get to all those successes without believing that you're someone who's like capable of them. But it's like
Yeah.
obviously different than having like a fake it till you make it type of
Yeah,
mindset, because
totally.
fake it till you make it, you inherently believe that you're faking it and that this like
Yeah.
isn't true, which kind of pokes holes in your confidence versus saying like, I'm a runner, I want to be someone who runs, so therefore I run. And like I remember it just took the guesswork out of so like many times of me like working out, and we were just talking about this, but I kept having the mindset of like, oh, well, once my work chills out a little bit, I'll do
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. And recently I've been trying to be more like, okay, wait, no, like I want to be a healthy person. I want to be someone who eats healthy. What does that look like for me? You know, and then it's like from there, it's
Yeah.
so much easier not to eat random food, or it's so much easier to like
Yeah.
prioritize like
Yeah.
nutrition and diet and those types of things because you believe that that's who you are. And even if it starts with
Yeah. And
the
you
core identity,
pre-decide.
yeah,
Yeah.
it takes so much of the guesswork out of it, which I think feel like
Yeah.
is so. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think exactly what you're saying. When, like, alternately going back to kind of what I was talking about before, is that when your night out or your wild story, it becomes your proof of selfhood. It's actually not rooted in your like ongoing values or
Yeah,
habits.
yeah,
So that sense of self is really fleeting. So I think that's could be a root of why a lot of people feel their identity is so shifting in especially in their
yeah,
20s and 30s because their maybe temporary actions aren't based in things that they in the long term want to be. And I
yeah.
remember hearing once, I thought it was really interesting, speaking of the religious context, that many people would not claim that they're religious, but if asked if they want to raise their kids religiously, they often say yes.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting, like, contradiction that's like, oh, you yourself wouldn't want to necessarily apply these things to yourself, but you find it valuable for someone that you would care about and could see maybe the value in it. So
Yeah.
I think that's just one example of like a
Yeah.
discrepancy, but I
Well,
think
yeah. It's
that's
so interesting when they talk about like, or when, like, I don't even know what episode it was that we referenced that. We'll have to pull it up in the fact check. But talking about like the current version of yourself is not as different from the future version of yourself as you're
yeah,
inclined to believe. That like having
yeah,
kids is like 10 years away from like most people, like max 10 years. Like within
oh
10
yeah,
years, you'll probably have kids, is kind of the like
yeah,
overarching. And so it's like, at what point in those 10 years did you imagine yourself to start taking religion seriously? Or did you imagine yourself to start taking
yeah,
nutrition seriously or your finances
yeah,
seriously? You know, like that all falls in that
yeah,
same boat. But pretty much everyone's like, oh, I'll have that
yeah,
figured out by the time that I have kids. But you won't if
yeah,
your identity like never shifts towards being someone who actually cares about that and like consciously acknowledges it as like an important part of your life, which is so interesting.
yeah,
And it even made me think of our generalist versus expert episode talking about like when the fit looks
yeah,
like grit, it like compounds as resilience. And it almost feels like that has like a bit to do with the identity concept of if you believe yourself to be someone who eats healthy, you're gonna be a better fit for eating healthy and taking the guesswork out of that. And it almost takes the emotion out of it a little bit instead of being, well, I can't eat that donut because I'm on a diet, is kind of almost like sad.
yeah,
And then you're like looking forward to a future
yeah,
version where you can eat a donut because you're not on a diet,
yeah,
you know, versus like being like, oh, I just wouldn't eat a donut because I'm a healthy person who doesn't eat donuts. Completely different, and you completely
yes,
like take out the possibility of even like feeling sad about it. Like it takes the emotions out of it because it's like, oh, that was never an option for me. I'm
yes.
not that type of person.
Yes, totally. And I think it's, yeah, what you're saying is really interesting because in the research article I was reading, it starts with kind of this idea of philosophy that they call like there's synchronic and diachronic. So synchronic's like your identity right now, and diachronic's
Yeah,
your identity through time. And
interesting.
essentially, like, it was talking about a lot of philosophers and like culture often points out that it wants to separate the two, like as if they're not connected. Like but life is really made up of both. And so you kind of exist within each moment, but you also depend on an ongoing narrative or whatever. And it kind of boils down to like your decision making, and like your decisions are how your present self kind of interacts with your future self. And I thought that was a really interesting kind of like back and forth to think about. But like essentially what we're saying with habits is that the repetition of certain decisions leads to habits, and which means that habits are the visible track of your kind of like identity through time.
Yeah, it's the
and
evidence.
It's almost like a mental extension. Yeah, it's the evidence.
Yeah.
It's like the mental extension of your internal self, resulting in a personal decision.
Yeah.
And that allows for like the development of a habit.
Yeah.
And so
Compounding over time.
yeah, like the habits being like repeated decisions that evidence your shaped identity, or like that shape your identity, I guess is a better way to put it.
Yeah.
But
that's so true.
I think for me, I like was thinking about how I've always viewed myself as like an actionable person, and that I can take action quickly. Like I don't like conflict, so I'd rather have like the conflict conversation earlier on, or like I almost like if I need to do a task, I'll just do it, or like if I want to start running, I'll start running, or like I feel like even with my like caffeine thing, it's like, oh, okay, I learned about this and I'm like gonna just start, you know, like right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like I was talking with some girls this morning that I was almost like feeling, and I think here's the thing with like habits when it's not in alignment with your self-concept, is that it leads to cognitive dissonance. So it almost leads to more like angst in the brain, because I noticed in myself that I wasn't necessarily being actionable in certain areas that are important to me, because I feel like there was too many decisions to make that I felt frozen, and therefore like couldn't move forward. But then that was causing me more angst, because it was like against my like self-philosophy or self-narrative, I guess. And so I was like, wait, it's not aligning. And I think that actually can make you feel like kind of like, it makes you feel bad about yourself, because you're like, wait,
makes you feel insane. Yeah. Well, I remember literally, I remember always having this problem, which it's kind of one of those things. It's like, maybe this is the first time I've voiced this. I don't know, but just like
do it on a public podcast.
I know, like this is actually this is the perfect place for this. But
let me process something new emotionally right here. Right now.
It's like, okay, y'all, if I put this on the internet. But I feel like I have like specific relationships that I would always be so frustrated by, because like they want to reinvent the wheel overnight, and I feel like I grew up thinking like, oh, that's totally normal, and like that's just something that happened. And then you kind of realize like, okay, wait, there's a ton of ownership that's going into this. So the issue that I'd always have with it was I felt like they'd write like a whole to-do list of all of the ways that their life is going to change tomorrow. And the problem with that is you're gonna get through 3 of the things on the 17 itemized list. Like on an itemized list of 17, you're gonna maybe finish 3 of them, and that's gonna be amazing. And 3 is probably really even ambitious for how daunting all those tasks were, and you should be really proud of yourself that you even got through 3 of them. But because you told yourself that you were gonna finish all 17 of them, you're gonna feel like a failure because you didn't. And so that's evidence against you being a productive individual. That's evidence against you being
that's interesting.
Organized and reasonable and like logical, like all these like great things, because you kind of set like an unrealistic goal. And I feel like another thing that James Clear said, I literally have it. It's right here on my board.
My dad got me that book, but I'll be honest, I never finished.
It's like so good. I feel like my main thing from it was the identity habits, and then I was like, period. And I feel like it's so like influencer, like so fitness guy. But it's my you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Which I feel like is so like in line with the $1 million to-do list that you're only going to get through 3 things of, because like failing a goal is, I feel like, so much more detrimental to your mindset towards who you are and your own self-concept. And so I feel like
it's like, what are
there's so much power.
It's essentially like what provision are you making to fulfill those 17 to-do list things? How are you going to actually accomplish them in a real way other than just having the aspiration. Because I feel like 3 is like the willpower. No, so it's like you finish 3 based on like sheer like willpower and motivation, but the rest it's kind of like it just dies down quickly.
Yeah. And I feel like it's like so detrimental to your self-concept to like say that you're gonna do 17 things and then not do them day after day after day. To tell yourself you're gonna be a completely different person the next day is so consistently proving that you're not who you think you are. And I feel like the most like powerful part about identity habits is using the opportunity to prove to yourself that you are who you think you are.
Yeah.
You know, and like that you can almost like trust yourself.
Yeah, totally. Like I think about people that are, I remember reading this book by Anne Lamott. It's called Bird by Bird, and it's all about writing. Honestly, I meant to send it to you, Summer, because I feel like for some reason you'd love it. One, she's a hilarious writer, and it inspired me in terms of like writing style, because I think I randomly feel like I write more conversationally. And but one of the things she talks about in being a writer is that you actually have to write and finish things and not just start things and say you're a writer. And to get up every single day and she's like, you literally just stare at the screen and think you're like, say all the worst possible things to yourself and say you have no good ideas and like get all angsty. And then you just start writing and you have to push yourself to finish. And I remember loving that because I was like, oh, I don't consider myself a writer, but I do like to write. And even just building that concept of being comfortable, like sharing that I like to write, came from the fact that I've actually now written a lot of things over the past year that I don't necessarily feel like I need to share. It's not really for that, but kind of knowing like I actually do have something to share, and that's kind of cool.
Like you have evidence
in and of it itself.
Yeah, because I feel like there's nothing worse. Like I feel like I know people who kind of do something once and then they say, I'm this way. And then it's like, that's awesome for like a social setting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And like flex that you're such a runner or something, you know, it's like something like that. But I feel like I'm even so sensitive to that I genuinely run every single day and I still have like a really weird time saying to someone that I'm a runner. Because like in my head I would be like it would be evidence if I ran in college or if I ran my specific marathon all the time or like something like that. But even just like having like the claim substantiated to yourself, like making like having it at your identity and letting like the actions follow from that. I felt like something that was really interesting that I read was that the goal of like an identity habit, like the goal isn't to write a blog post. The goal is to be a writer. Or the goal isn't to run a half marathon. The goal is to be a runner. And so, like, allowing yourself to, like, work backwards from that. Because I feel like I know a ton of people even that, like, set a huge goal of running a half marathon and then they run it and it is such a great experience and then they don't run again for 6 months.
Yeah, no,
and, like, they almost prove
totally. But I think that's okay as well. But I guess it's more of a, like, what's the reflection of what you actually want to be.
I feel like that's where that would matter. Of like, do you want to be a runner or do you want to be someone who's run half marathons? Because those are like 2 different goals.
Yeah, totally. I think that's definitely interesting, and I think it's definitely. It's more like that. I feel like it always goes back to like that self-reflection of like, what do you really value and want to build like in your everyday habits now, and. Yeah, like when it comes to even relationships or life or your body or like, your finances or how you rest and stuff. I feel like honestly I've been like felt caught in a sense by always saying like in this next season I'll get more rest and then just being like, I don't know how, but I am always the person that's like working on something at like 1 a.m.
Always.
And I don't want to be that person, but... Yeah, like literally, I'm like, wait. And I just get way less sleep and kind of like let that be like a thing that I was proud of. And I was like, no, I actually like know scientifically I need more sleep. But I can operate, but I think it's just my body's like adjusted operating system. So that's kind of horrible. But
that's like really scary. I do understand that though. Yeah. I feel that even with like text messages and things like that I feel like we've both had seasons of like being so bad at responding to text messages, and it's like the only thing that can hear that is me oh yeah, literally looking in the mirror and being like, you want to be someone who is prompt with responses. Like, you want to be a reliable person.
And ultimately, because you want to be someone that cares about your relationships. And
True.
And like, that's almost like even the deeper thing. It's like, oh, I want to be someone that's like available and present for people that I'm in relation to.
This is such like a funny personal anecdote, basically. But the last time, it wasn't the last time I was in New York, the time before I was in New York, I think, is when I was telling you about, no, I did it the time that I did it when I was in New York in April, but I told you
one
about
of the
it
times
in September. But my updated PR statements, because this is like such a personal anecdote, but I essentially was realizing that I was having like a lot of system 1 responses to conversations, and realizing like I was very outdated.
Wait, explain what a system 1 response.
Yes. So system 1, I feel like we talked about this in one of our early episodes, but a system 1 response is essentially the gut response of like your first instinct.
Yeah.
And system 2 is anything that you take a little bit longer to digest, or like maybe in the moment have to like process. So they talk about it a lot, I feel like, with behavioral psychology, because a system 1 question, like a question that would inhibit a system 1 response is, how are you? And then the person would say, I'm good, how are you? And how to have like good and meaningful deep conversation is to figure out how to inhibit a system 2 response. So you would ask the question of, is there anything this weekend you're excited for? Because it makes the person in real time process and actually like say something new other than something that they've just like rehearsed and they're going to move on without ever having thought of again. And so essentially with my PR statements, I was realizing I was having a lot of system 1 responses towards things, of people being like, oh, well, what's your dream job? And I was saying like, I wanted to work in sports photography, when that's not true at all anymore. But I just like hadn't thought deeper towards it. And so it's like, okay, well, if someone were to actually call me on that and be like, oh, well, what are you doing right now to like work in sports photography? I would have no evidence for them. And I would be like a fraud. Like, I would be a complete phony because I'm not doing anything that's in line with my actual goals. And so essentially I got stranded at the LaGuardia airport for I think 9 hours and like wandered around and updated all of my PR statements.
Actually, it's kind of one of the better airports to get stuck in, I will say.
It was not a terrible experience. It was like,
they got like that water thing going in the middle, and I was like, kind of cute.
I know. I like rode the escalators like up and down a couple times, and I was like, this is not the worst place to be. I was like, this is the perfect place to do some.
They're not doing that in St. Louis. That's where I would always get trapped.
Oh, really? I've never actually been to the St. Louis airport, I don't think.
Don't go there. Just kidding. I love St. Louis, but like me.
But essentially, I just like had to like process through. So maybe this would be like a fun thing for like anyone listening to the podcast, is like thinking about your updated PR statements, because I ended up having to think about the sports example and realizing, okay, no, I wish I was more, I wish I had more free time for personal creative projects as they rose, but I'm really happy with the direction that my career is headed right now. I'm really happy, but I wish I had blank. And it's like, that's a more like, now I have an updated like system 1 response for something. If I end up using it, like hopefully I'm processing things in the moment, but even just like being able to assess like your current identity and what your expectations are of yourself right now, and even being like I feel like this phrase that's been living rent free for me recently is the like, to have a village you have to be a villager. And it takes so much of the guesswork out of like showing up for relationships, or you know, even today it's like to the coffee shop to see a friend, even though it was for an hour and it was super inconvenient. But it's like you have to have your identity habits and like your identity clear of like, who you want to be, so that when opportunities like that come, then you like don't. You're taking the guesswork.
I think you know what to prioritize. That's one of the things I wrote down. Especially for people in their 20s and 30s, that life's changing so much, and that a lot of circumstances change, relationships, jobs, cities, like beliefs can change. And a lot of time, in times of uncertainty, it's a through line of continuity, at least in your behavior, even if it's not necessarily in your external circumstance. And like in times of uncertainty, your habits of cooking dinner with a friend on a Tuesday establish that you're someone that wants to be in community and makes that a priority. 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 Or just that it's a decision fatigue versus we have to make so many decisions, I feel like, in our 20s that I almost was even thinking about, like, why college sometimes feels so much, in many ways, it's a lot easier because you're, like, not doing a lot of things, but that you have to do in the adult world, but there's such a habitual nature to it. Your week, you always have these certain classes, you have, like, these certain obligations after your classes, and, like, that's, even if, like, the gray in between areas are, like, you know, all different, or I feel like I did a lot more spontaneous things in college, but at the root of it, you're very grounded in, like, you're not making new decisions every day about, like, every night, what am I going to do on this weeknight? It's like, no, I have a commitment, or, like, I have this organization I have to go to on Thursday, or I have, like, what
Friday. Yeah. Well, it's Thursday, so I'm going to go to whatever, like, organization meeting. And it's...
Yeah. So it's almost like you get less decisions to make. And I guess that could solidify you in a way that's, like, now the habitual nature, I think, almost like you mentioned, that it's, like, if you want to be a doctor, you study 2 hours for the MCAT every single day. And that affects your identity in the sense that, like, over time it reinforces that that's what you want to do, and that you know, then you feel confident to, like, accept it if you go to a great school that you've always wanted to or whatever. But then, like, alternately it could get you stuck, I guess. But if you're into over planning and, like, control, and that you want to constantly I wrote down, like, the habit could be, like, constantly scheduling, planning, or over preparing. And, like, that was, like, based in a past origin that it helped you succeed academically or, like, early in your career. But now it prevents flexibility and, like, can stifle your creativity. And the habit's, like, enforced in almost, like, a rigid identity that you're only safe when you're in control, which isn't really reflective of, like, your current view that you want to be, like, open and adaptable, like, as a human being and stuff. And so I guess habits can also lead to more of, like, a limiting like, loop if it's not updated, or unconscious kind of, like, biases, almost you're talking about with your system one responses that were a little bit outdated. But I think it does, like, give a certain level of autonomy and responsibility where you almost feel, like, proud of yourself for stewarding your time in a way that's productive when you have certain habits that you can feel, like, proud of, like, how you're shaping yourself. Because I always meet with certain girls on Thursday mornings that, like, go, and since I'm a Christian, like, I go and pray at my church on like Monday mornings, and I feel like that's been good consistent patterns for me that have allowed me to feel, like, very connected to not only a group of people that I identify with, but also, and, like, with the, like, entity I, you know, like, identify with, but also, like, form me into someone that I like to be, or, like, want to be long
that you want to be.
But
Well, it is so, like we were talking about the cognitive dissonance between who you are right now and who you want to be, if there's no true evidence of, like, change or progress towards it, is, like, so frictionful. And it's like, how do you, it's almost like a question of how do you be who you want to be, or how do you accomplish the things that you want to accomplish in life if you aren't even who you think you are, you know? And it's, like, such a square one. So to know that you're a Christian, and to know that, like, your faith is a priority to you, and then to have the evidence of, like, showing up at the prayer room and meeting with these girls and being in community, it's like, it just reinforces that you actually are who you think you are, and therefore it leads over into other elements of your life, saying, okay, you're a person of integrity, and you know that you're a person of integrity because you identify as that, and you have so much evidence for all these other identities in your life. And so it takes the guesswork again out of, like, like, what would an integrous person do in this scenario? Well, you know, because, like, you identify as a person with integrity. This is what a person with integrity would do in this moment. Therefore, this is what I'm doing. And I remember even like when I first went full time with my video stuff, I would ask, like, what would the smartest, like, filmmaker, like, what would the like the smartest version of filmmaker inside of me, like, what would they do right now? And it's like when things really started making a ton of sense, and I was, like, still very much so developing systems for my day, and, like, how I navigated a wedding day and all that kind of stuff. And it helped so much because it was like, hey, what would, if I was really smart, if I was a really, like, talented filmmaker, what would I do right now? And then it's like, just to go and do that like takes all the friction and guesswork
Yeah.
out of like almost completely ignoring who you are right now and allowing you to bypass to like who you want to be. And like I feel that way even when I'm like labeling and sorting stuff now as like, okay, if I was the most talented version of myself, like this is what
Yeah.
I'm doing right now, so therefore I'm gonna do that, you know?
That was one of I wrote down several questions that kind of analyze more this, yeah, I guess identity habits as a whole. And one of the things that I wrote down was, can strengthening your view of your future self improve your habit consistency? Kind of what you're almost talking about. Seeing your future self as you. So seeing your future self as expert filmmaker, like how does that change your habits today? And I was curious just, yeah, and there is research showing people like who feel connected to their future self like can save money better or like exercise more. So it's just almost, could habits be more of like a mechanism for that connection? And then equally, I was kind of, yeah, I think so as well. I think that's kind of maybe the argument that we're making. And honestly, I think I'm like, I could do better at like doing an internal audit of what habits I want to make in certain categories of life. I feel like I almost need to go through like categories of my life and be like, how am I doing with finance? How am I doing with fitness? How am I doing with relationships? Like, what patterns am I establishing? It's interesting though, because I do think there's like, what is the sweet spot between structure and spontaneity? I'm someone that kind of needs a little bit of spontaneity, but then at the same time, New York is so wild that I found bringing more structure into my day has actually always allows for more, I'm going to get spontaneity no matter what because it's like wild out there, but the structure ended up making me feel a lot more like centered. I don't really like that word, but that's what I'm going with.
No, fair. I feel so much more grounded. But something that my mom's always said is that like discipline is freedom and freedom is discipline. And so it's the more structured and rigid you are with the things that you need to be structured and rigid with, the more free space you create for the gray. And like the more you get to do fun, silly things because like you're on it when you're on it and you're off of it when you're off of it. And so like even being able to know like that like you, I don't know, like being able to have the habits that like take your identity out of question creates so much more space for like letting life happen. Almost is like you're not in an existential crisis every single day of wondering who you are, how you would respond to something, because it's like those things are almost without question, like they're not factoring into your decision fatigue at all, you know?
Yeah. I'm also curious if there's certain people that are better at not just like establishing habits, but almost translating abstract values to concrete like actions. So I actually feel like that's maybe harder to, you know, conceptualize. Or I think that the like action of creating a habit or the decision making that leads to habits, it's almost harder to like say, okay, like if I am, you know, someone of integrity, what's like the habit that leads to that? Like almost, I guess it leads, I think I wrote down like, I think that maybe self-reflective people would probably be better at this because they're able to reflect on whether or not they've actually lived in alignment with that or like experienced cognitive dissonance in something they said or did. But yeah, I think that's actually kind of like a harder in a moment to be like, okay, this is like the things I value, and maybe that'd be actually a good exercise, like even for us to do, of like, okay, these are things I value, and then what is the like consequential habit that I can like glean from it, not to like put all these parameters, but just to so I guess like if you want to be a person of integrity, it's like telling the 100% truth, because you not like telling little lies or whatever. Which I remember someone saying that once and being like, I consider myself an honest person, but I did find like sometimes almost like obscuring little, not like truths. And I think obviously there's prudence, like you don't need to share everything. But it was almost like an idea of sometimes I would just be like, wait, why did I like not necessarily tell the truth in that moment? And it was like a low stakes thing that like didn't really matter. But like actually, you know, just having my own reflection, be like, kind of like
that was random.
Claim that was my story and it wasn't. Or like, I don't know, you know, just like a random thing. You're like, that was interesting, like an interesting little moment to audit myself.
My sister and I used to always have the question of like, is it possible to stumble upon, or is it possible to seek out your own cognitive dissonance, or must you always stumble upon it? And that's one of those things of like realizing that you associate yourself as a person of integrity, and then catching yourself in a white lie is such a moment
Yeah.
of like stumbling upon your own
Whoa.
cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like,
Like,
it's necessary because you kind of almost have to. Because I really don't think it's that easy to seek it out. Like, I don't think that you can go to a
yeah.
park and like even the most successful, most introspective people could perform an audit on their lives, but they're only gonna like understand what they're capable of understanding at the time. Like, I don't think that you can necessarily look inwards and understand something new, or else you already would be. Like, it has to be like a new experience or like a new illumination that like makes it
Yeah.
make sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess
That one's like
it's even.
abstract.
Say it again.
I was like, I don't know, this is abstract. That's just one girl's opinion. Not to be taken too seriously.
It got too abstract.
We got too abstract.
Not abstract enough. We're going philosophical. It's a psychology podcast, but then we go philosophical.
We go philosophical. I think it's something that is interesting, just even like trending towards the end of the conversation, is knowing that your brain is always going to take the path of the least amount of friction.
Least resistance. Yeah.
Yes, the least resistance. And so, like, it's gonna make choices that it's made in the past, because your brain is full of the neurons and the synapses and the neural pathways. And I think that I forget how much glucose it takes, but it takes a good amount of glucose to make a new pathway, which is energy and fuel and like taking away from other like automations in your body. So your brain is going to do that with the least amount of glucose possible. So it likes familiar decisions, it loves habits, it loves things without guesswork, which is why, like really effective people have really clean spaces, because their brain isn't constantly cluttered with, like all these things to process and decide on constantly. Like, it's a clean slate, it's an easy decision, it's all of those things. And so even like looking at like habits, going from like a disruption phase to an intention phase, like your life is full of habits because your brain isn't accidental, but it is automated.
That's the life we're living. Hey guys, welcome to the fact check for episode 11, the psychology of identity habits. We were literally midway through a conversation and I just started this recording.
I literally was about to say, there's some like TMG studios with like the podcast, whatever, like I don't even know, the Brooke and Connor, like the studio that does like Brooke and Connor.
I was gonna say, I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I was like, I need to give more context for this. And I think that they used to do like Cody Co and like all that kind of stuff. I keep getting ads for some like murder mystery thing that they put on for Halloween, but essentially like the whole premise is like the podcasters must die, and it's all of them being like all hanging out as friends like organically, and they're like, someone's about to say something funny and they're like, no, like save it for the podcast, and it was literally Christina and I when we do fact check, like
we're like talking so much beforehand, and then we're like, wait, we should probably just start recording this.
No, and then we get to the life updates and it's like, I don't think I have anything going on really.
And then right after we're like,
this is what I've been up to. Here's 17 funny stories that I'm
like
gonna retell like a stand-up
It's because
comedian.
it's always the minuscule things that we're telling each other, but then it becomes a funny story. But then for the fact check, I'm like, no one wants to hear this.
No one wants to hear this, yeah.
Like, think about any stranger, I'm like, they don't need to hear this.
They don't want to hear about my Brazilian steakhouse.
But maybe you guys do.
You never know.
Just as Summer once forewarned, or Summer's sister once forewarned. Do you want to drop that quote really quick? Just to drop some wisdom really fast before we get into the real fact check.
This is the whole reason we have a psychology podcast. But my sister was in the middle of like a Brazilian whatever meat thing. Brazilian
butt lift.
Crazy. The like 16 meters, I don't even know. Just in Gatlinburg, Tennessee,
Too
and
far.
had never been there before. My sister's in the middle of a Brazilian butt lift, and anyways, my sister and I have like a rhythm of never texting like unless it's like we're calling or like it's during the day or whatever. So she was in the middle of this Brazilian meet thing, and she texts me, if anyone ever offers you a 16 meet experience, say no sir, 9 will be enough.
Words to live by.
Words to live by. So yeah, just let that carry you throughout your day today.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to start us off. So, Summer mentioned the cue routine reward framework, which is widely associated with Charles Duhigg's The Power of the Habit and called the habit loop. So, just to expand upon this a little bit more, the loop breaks habit into 3 parts: the cue, what triggers the behavior, routine, the behavior itself, and reward, the payoff that reinforces it. And research from behavioral research and neuroscience supports this framework. So repeated behaviors become automatic when cues constantly trigger routines and rewards, whether a small dopamine hit or kind of tangible outcome, it strengthens the loop over time. So kind of why it matters is understanding the habit loop can, like Summer talked about, help you redesign daily routines, replace unhelpful habits, and kind of make lasting behavioral changes without really solely relying on willpower.
Honestly, like randomly to add on this, but I was listening to a podcast yesterday about habits again, and it was talking about how it's like everything in being disciplined goes against like basic human nature, because basic human nature is like wired for instant gratification because of survival, which is like an interesting framework to put in habits and like long-term goals, that it's like you have to fight against your biology, setting up systems like to set yourself up for success, which I just thought was like kind of an interesting like, oh yeah, you have to fight against like your survival mechanisms because your brain wants dopamine as soon as possible, which the fastest way to get that is sitting in bed and scrolling on TikTok.
But totally.
Like,
and it's like we're like a little business. It's like you kind of have to set up little structures and frameworks for how it's going to operate. So it's kind of interesting in that way.
It is really interesting. Christina mentioned a study that expressed that individuals who wouldn't usually categorize themselves as religious and would want to raise their children religiously, and this is mostly false. While there's no study that exactly shows parents who don't identify as religious yet want to raise their kids religiously, there is a research showing a gap. Many parents say that they want to pass on faith, but only if religion is meaningful in their own life. For example, the Pew Research Center found that among parents affiliated with religion, 83% who say religion is very important to them and want to raise their kid in the faith, but that number drops to 21% if religion is less important to them personally. Another study found that 35% of the U.S. parents say that it's very or extremely important to their children to share their religious beliefs, compared to 94% who said it was very or extremely important to their kids that they be honest, ethical, and helpful. Overall, only about 1/3 of U.S. parents say that it's very important that their kids share their religious beliefs, while the percentage is higher among evangelicals. Most parents prioritize teaching values like honesty, kindness, and ensuring a religious upbringing. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. Summer mentioned System 1, System 2 responses. This framework came from the research of psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. We mentioned this in past episodes when Kahneman kind of speaks about this in his popularized book, Thinking Fast and Slow, which is kind of the culmination of their work. It distinguishes between System 1, which is the fast, automatic, and intuitive form of thought, and System 2, which is a more slow, deliberate, and effortful thought. So most of our day-to-day behaviors, from what we eat to how we react, run on a kind of a System 1 autopilot, while System 2 steps in when we need more of that kind of intentional, reflective, and effortful choices to be made. So the distinction is influential when it comes to identity habits, because habits live in System 1. They're the automatic scripts that reinforce what we believe. Shifting an identity or forming new habits requires, like Summer mentioned before, like that activating system. activating system 2. So slowing down long enough to notice those automatic responses and then consciously choosing a different behavior. So over time, system 2, through guided actions, can reprogram and become a system 1 response.
Love. And lastly, Christina references research showing that people who feel more connected to their future selves tend to make better long-term decisions, like saving money and exercising more consistently. This idea comes from studies by psychologist Hal Hirschfield at UCLA, who found that when individuals vividly imagine or even see an age-progressed image of themselves, they're more likely to act in ways that benefit their future well-being. In one experiment, participants who saw a realistic digital rendering of their older selves allocated more than twice as much money towards retirement compared to those who didn't. The research suggests that increasing empathy for your future you can make long-term goals feel more personally relevant, bridging the gap between short-term impulses and long-lasting habits. So interesting. My lore with this is one time, this is random, but I was going through like a personal, moment, and
Sure.
breakup,
Okay.
personal moment, but just like self-reflection period, and
Yeah.
there was like a TikTok trend that I saw the future version of myself, and it literally was like catalyst for so much self-reflection, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm making decisions that are influencing my life right now, but they're also like in reality influencing her life, and I need to set her up for success.
What do you mean, like you saw your future self? What does that mean?
It was like a TikTok trend at the time that like age
It shows you
progressed your
older?
face. Yeah, it was just me older, and it looked like so
Wow,
realistic
yeah.
that I was literally like, it's like maybe
How
that's a
old were
breakup
you?
hack. Like 55, 60.
Oh, wow.
Like very
Okay.
probably still living life, like hopefully still married, like those types of
Yeah.
vibes. But I was like,
Yeah.
maybe that's literally like a
You're
breakup
dead.
hack.
It's
I
your future self
know.
and
Like, sorry, girl.
still living.
Still living if I'm still alive. But literally I was like, this is great
Yeah,
for
that's
reflection.
interesting. That is interesting.
I know.
I'm like about to sketch of a version of my future self looking awesome.
Yeah, for real. I literally was just thinking
So really set myself up for that.
I'm like gonna hang two pictures of myself right behind my desk, and one is like awesome, athletic, like on it, 60-year-old, and the other side is like my negative timeline. So every time that I make a decision, I'm like, which
I'm like,
path do I want to go
what's my
down?
vote? Yeah. Who am I voting for today?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Each habit is an action, is a vote
I have like
for
a
the
tally for like
Honestly, it's like this is a joke, but that would probably be really great decision making,
yeah.
like
It probably
motivation.
would. I think it might lean towards like an extreme, but I have like artwork and I like put it over my artwork.
Hangs it.
It's like a giant poster size thing. That'd be
Yeah,
kind
you
of
have people over and they're like, and you're like, that's me when I'm
oh,
60.
that's me if I toxic root versus really
Mhm.
healthy
Yeah,
awesome root.
that's me whenever I want to eat too much sugar, and then that's me having
Yeah. That's
sustained
me
them.
at like post 10 p.m. when I like get ravenous. Me, me when I'm
Me with
super
a
stuffed.
nutritious, well-balanced diet, so.
Me when I'm meal prepping on Sunday. This is
True.
one of my updates, is that I tried to meal prep
Yeah.
this week and literally it fails.
Wow.
I kept talking about making beef stew in a way that was almost obnoxious. And it really was all I was wanting to do. And I didn't even
October.
really have time for it because I had so much to do. And I was like, but I have to make this beef stew. Like, it was so
Have you told
ingrained in me.
everybody? Yeah.
Yeah, I literally told so many people. Someone
Oh.
even said, like, you really keep mentioning that beef stew. I'm like, I know.
Thanks
But
for noticing.
thank you. Thank you. I have been wanting to make that. So
Mhm.
anyways, I made it, but I feel like normally I'm a good cook, I'll be honest. So when I do a recipe, it normally comes out. But I took a shower because it was going to take so long, like it needs to simmer. I guess I've always done it in like an instant pot.
Okay.
But whenever I came out of the shower, I was just in like a giant pot, but it wasn't like
Yeah.
big enough, I think. I think this is my downfall.
Okay.
Because there's supposed to be broth, and when I came back out, it was soup when I left. When I came back out, I don't know what happened. Like, everything was charred at the bottom of the pan, and there was no liquid.
Whoa.
I think it all absorbed into the potatoes. That's my guess. Or the meat. But literally, there was like no liquid. And it was all burnt. But I've been eating it. I honestly. It was so much meat. It just ended up looking like mush from
This is shocking.
maybe like old times England when like people would eat like mush, I think. Or like, I just think of someone almost asking, "Mosa," and what they would give them is like what I made. It has no color.
Crazy analogy for you to literally be eating it.
But honestly, it tastes really good, so it kind of is like whatever.
Oh,
And then my other random update, I told them this
recipe.
before. Yeah, I'll send you the recipe, and then I'll send you what I made.
I need a recipe for old time mush. I want to feel like a peasant who's asking more, sir.
I'm a yokel, and I need some old time mush.
Have you been to medieval times? Or is that
I want to go so bad, but I know you've been.
Okay, yeah. Well, next time you're in Texas, we'll definitely have to go. But that would be like a fun, like, we're pre-gaming medieval times with some mush. Like, we kind of have like a spirit leading up to it.
I don't even know if I could replicate this if I tried, but maybe one day I'll try pre-medieval times.
Medieval times.
Either that or we just get like a delightful beef stew. So either one is
either one.
a great option, I think.
Yeah.
And then I was in my stats class yesterday, and we were like midway through an example, and our teacher just like runs out like extremely hastily, and to the point where everyone's kind of like, "Whoa, is she okay? Like, what happened?" And it was not just like a casual like brisk walk out. It was like that. Anyway, she comes back 5 or 7 minutes later, and she's like, bust in. She goes, how did I even phrase it? It was like, she busts in, and she's like, me running out? Yeah, I threw up. Grab your and leave or whatever. Class is over. So it was her saying class is over super dramatically, and then like get out. We were all like, what? And it almost seemed like a prank of how dramatically it felt impossible, even the timeline of it. Is what I shared with Summer, because I feel like I'll post throw up regrouping to me would take a long time. Some other people will maybe better than me, so I'm assuming she's one of those, but like seriously, it was like such a fast like run out, come back, and like toss it out of class.
It makes me want to have a reason to say class is over. Like I want that moment.
100%. 100.
Like class is over, and you're like,
and it to be like a storm in, yeah. I'm just gonna start saying that to people, I think.
Class is over. It's like so Dua Lipa training season is like class is over. Training season's over, and over. Like, what?
And
you're like living in my own world over here.
So then that was cool.
You're getting a new bed today.
I'm getting a new bed today. We were going to record this almost like during the time when I was getting bed, and it could have just been like a crazy intrusion for like someone to walk in carrying like a giant bed behind me. So that's going to be cool. I literally got it. I'm almost wondering if it's going to be not like obviously it's not a scam, but well, it's not obvious actually at all. It's through Facebook Marketplace, so, you know, it's just, like, could be a hit or miss, and I'm sending 2 guys in a truck to get that thing, so I was like, I don't need to be, like, hauling a queen-size mattress, like, through these streets. I don't even know how I would do that. So, luckily, that's happening.
I'm kind of impressed by your logistics planning to get, like, 2 guys to a place for a Facebook Market pickup.
What I literally did, don't be impressed, because I did this last night at midnight. I Googled how do I move a queen mattress and a disassembled bed. And then I just typed search into Google, and this company called Lug came up, 2 G's. Lug, L-U-G-G.
Lug.
And I just clicked their little service, service, and then it signed me up for that. So genuinely, anyone can do it. I don't even know if it's going to... Anyone can cook.
You're one Google
and I'm not logistics. I'm not thoughtful in that way, I think.
You should
So
make some mush for the movers.
yeah, I still have some, so if they want it.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, your meal prep. I'm trying to think if I have
Yeah.
anything going on. I keep buying Trader Joe's meals, which is like,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
kind of surprised that I haven't done that sooner in my life. Or like I
Yeah,
did in
it's
college,
nice.
but I haven't been more recently. But I'm like literally
What are you
overthinking.
into these days?
I keep just buying different variations of like a chicken and rice.
Yeah.
But I bought the like rice packets. I honestly haven't had this one yet, so I'll let you guys know how it goes today. But I have this like huge thing of rice that I've had for like I think 2 years. Like I've moved it with me because it's a huge thing of rice. But it's the kind of rice that takes like 45 minutes,
Oh yeah.
and I just literally never
Does rice actually take 45 minutes?
whatever they're telling me to do on there. It has it in a 45-step process basically. I'm like,
Oh snap.
I know. And so always I'm like, oh, I have no food. And then I'm like, I guess I have rice.
I know.
But
It's impossible to
no.
want to cook. I've started cooking with rice more regularly,
Mhm.
and mine's not on 45-minute mode,
That's
but
smart.
it does
It should
take
be
like a
like
15
5
minute
minutes.
kind of thing, but it's like a white rice.
Mm.
That it's almost like it does have that,
Mhm.
like it's not pre-cooked or anything. But even then, I get lazy. I already told Bella, I was like, I'm starving. And I was going to make pasta. And I even had I wanted pasta. I didn't even make it. I got lazy. And pasta is objectively one of the easiest things to
One of the
make.
easiest ones, yeah.
He just
I-
put noodles in boiling water, and I was like, I can't wait that long.
I literally can't do that. That is completely something that it's not going to happen. You know?
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of excited about my new Trader Joe's meal era because it feels just like a little bit better. I'm pretty sure I've been eating yogurt and apples for like too many meals, so I'm like, this is a good transition.
You're like, at least I know I'm eating like a proper
At least I know I'm
meal.
eating a proper meal.
I do think after a while I got tired of those things because I feel like I did have a moment being like, did I have any greenery? Not greenery, but like greens.
Yeah, vegetables. Hopefully it's my gateway drug that
Yeah.
ignites something. Because it's like I literally work from home. Like
You should
I'm
join me in the
someone
meal
who-
prep train.
Really?
Because then it's
I
just
want
you heat it up.
Yeah, that seems so nice.
Yeah.
The day
That
of
has
cooking
kind of been a
is
game changer. I did
intimidating,
it for like.
though. Like to have a Sunday that is like, oh, I'm cooking today.
Yeah.
Like that's intimidating. But
But it doesn't
gateway
take that
drug,
long.
gateway
Yeah,
drug.
gateway
we'll
drug.
get there.
Anyways, so we're just
Yeah, I
having such a
literally
like sidebar conversation.
Yeah, we're like,
I'm like, well, you
so how do
can.
you meal prep?
I'm trying to like reason with you, like to like meal prep.
Like you're gonna be fine. Like, perfect.
Sabrina Carpenter is in New York
Oh really? For what?
just for her concerts this week.
Oh, fun. Magic.
But I almost was like, should I try to like finesse a last minute ticket? I don't think it's gonna be possible because it seems like super sold out.
Yeah,
but-
I was like gonna say if it's possible, do it.
But
I
like
saw
it could
her-
be cool.
It could be so cool. I saw a TikTok the other day that was like Joe Creary, I don't know, and some other maybe role model or maybe Somber, some other boy.
Oh yeah, they were at
in that
Beacon,
interview. Okay, yeah, someone like saw them on the
which
streets.
literally is Bella used to live on the back side of Beacon.
Wait, what's Beacon?
Oh, the theater.
Oh my gosh. Wait.
So it's kind of crazy because you would literally low-key always see the little famous person from her window because they don't, like, the lines would be there.
That's so cool.
I know, it's just like interesting. Just
That
like
is like
things that would
literally the
happen.
one I'm trying to be on. Like I'm like I just want to casually like it just.
I
needs to
remember
be
my first time moving to New York, or not my first time, what? That doesn't make sense. One of my first weeks living in New York, I went to go get me and Macy. It's so funny now because I'm so familiar with the area, but at the time I was so lost. I went to go get me and Macy a Levain cookie, and whenever I was coming back, I got super twisted and was walking what I know now is completely west, which I thought I was walking north. I don't know how that happened. And I don't know, I think I was trying to do it without my phone to like understand the area.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's a Levain on 73rd in Amsterdam. This doesn't matter to anyone. Basically, these cross sections that's right in line with the Beacon Theater. And whenever I was going west, it's like essentially right if you were to come out of the Beacon Theater, you would like go straight to like where I was walking to. And I was walking that way and there was like this huge crowd and all this, they would yell, and then they kind of get quiet again. They'd be like, wow, like die down, wow, die down. And I remember kind of walking up, I was like, who is that? And they're like, oh, like someone turned to me and they're like, oh, Conan O'Brien's walking in slow-mo to his car. And every time they were screaming, it was him kind of like walking slow-mo, and then he turned and be like, and everyone would cheer, and then he like keep walking in slow-mo, and it took like 7 minutes for him to get to his car. That's awesome. And when I walked back, I was like, oh, that's kind of funny, and I couldn't really see him, so I ended up leaving before he like got to his car or whatever. But right when I was leaving, he got in his car, and the car turned around. So while they were trying to like cross, you know, like they're kind of turning into the lane, it was me crossing the street. So I was like, Conan's in there, like literally know for a fact Conan's in there, but he had just left a show at the Beacon Theater, so it was kind of just a funny moment.
Awesome. That's literally.
And I was like, got lost. How serendipitous! Yeah,
that's literally so fun. Like he's having so much fun with it.
He's having so much fun. He's always on the Upper West Side, actually. He like goes to a restaurant. Not to like spill his beans, but I think he must have like an apartment up here because I feel like someone saw him at like a cafe that like a lot of people go to. But I need to see him. I love him so much. So he has my humor.
Yeah, I'm like maybe I should get involved. I've never really watched him, but I'm like that's funny.
I'll send you some stuff. His podcast like gets me hype because he thinks so weird like us. Really? Yeah. And he's all about the bits. So
perfect. Cool. Wait, love.
Anyways,
we'll see you guys next week for more content.
Yeah. All right. Bye, y'all. Bye.